Hi everybody, it's Kimberly Tuttle here to walk you through my lesson plan project about my Webquest. The major components of the project started with thinking about what do I want the students to know by the time they're finished. So beginning with the end in mind to create an authentic and meaningful learning experience. And this year at my school, we have a big push to incorporate a bunch of STEAM connections. So I wanted to include cross-curricular connections and research and design into their final project. And technology was infused throughout to make the whole assignment much richer for the students. And I differentiated in a variety of ways through technology and in just traditional differentiation practices to ensure that everyone had equal access to the information. I'll walk you through the steps of my Webquest in a moment. Some of the technology I use, this is just a little bit. I use Weebly as the platform. I created a podcast with Spreaker to provide a differentiated audio experience for students who learn in that modality. I use Google Forms 3 times to assess students, to fill in gaps, so that I could provide direct instruction in a mini lesson at the beginning of the next class period. I also use Movie Maker to create a video of students demonstrating assessment skills and evaluating their own work. Some of the challenges I encountered throughout this project, in the implementation, the biggest challenge for me was just the amount of time it takes the students to go through a process like a true Webquest. I was letting go of my control of the classroom, and traditionally the solar system unit that we worked on through this would take me a couple of days to deliver the information, and we'd do a project, and then there'd be assessment. And through this process, just letting go of that and really letting the students explore and research and come up with their own learning process. So that was new and challenging for me. Collaborating with my team was interesting because, this being the first year that I used this, they also used it. So we had 3 other teachers with 3 different teaching styles, and it was just interesting kind of, figuring out how we could all make this one product work for all of our styles. 6th graders aren't old enough to use a lot of Web 2.0 tools yet, so I had to come up with some creative workarounds to provide them with the kind of experience I wanted them to have regardless of their age. And then I was really impressed with their level of creativity in exploring the information, and they came up with some ways to use technology to demonstrate their learning that I really wasn't expecting, and so that was a really fun part of the lesson for me. Some ways that I would like to improve this for the future. Office 365 is still kind of under implemented in my school, and I would like for the students to use that more. So maybe teaching them how to use that up front so that they feel more comfortable using some of those products and sharing information as they work via the 365 platforms. Also, streamlining the research process, because they kind of get bogged down in some of the intricacies of the data, and converting to different units was sort of an issue a couple of times, so I would kind of work that out in the graphic organizer next year. Also, maybe do the peer evaluation rubric via Google form rather than a pencil and paper, just to make it more confidential for the students, and it would make it easier for me to combine into their overall grade. Also, just keeping in mind that all of this has to be progress over perfection and just less stress and, worrying about how it's going to turn out, because, it all worked out great in the end. So here is my Webquest. The link is TuttlePlanetQuest.weebly.com, and right away you can see that it is a true Webquest rather than some of the question and read an article and answer questions that you sometimes see called a Webquest online. So it takes students through a realistic scenario in which the planet runs out of resources and is no longer habitable, and they have to plan for an evacuation. All of the images I used were from Creative Commons, and I tried to tie each page into one of the 7 habits of highly effective teens to incorporate some character education kind of on the down low. The process was laid out very clearly for the students, starting with the end in mind for them as well. And already you've got some resources. So the NASA site had fabulous YouTube videos that were just, it was like being on these different planets, and it was fun to watch the kids go through those exercises. And then the timeline, it was a 6-day process, very clearly organized. And then I created a podcast to differentiate for my auditory learners, and here's just a taste of that. It's only a minute long, so kids could come back to it.
Hi everybody, I'm excited for you to get started on your solar system quest. Your group will be responsible for researching the 8 planets in our solar system. You'll use the knowledge you gain throughout your research to design a habitat that could support your life on another planet of your choice. Divide the work in a fair way among...
So that was an interesting... 6th graders many of them had never heard a podcast before, so that was fun. The conclusion takes them through how they'll be assessed. There were some practice assessments that they could use via Quizlet and Study Jams. They had lots of choices for how they would demonstrate their learning. Some technology, some 3-dimensional model building. This is where I could see some improvement for next year, maybe providing a little bit more structure up front. And then a picture of some student work. In the evaluation page, I've got downloadable forms of 2 different rubrics, so how the students will be evaluated on their performance task, and then also how they will assess their group members to ensure that everybody participates in a fair way. And then I've got a Google Forms survey so that I can gather some information about their overall experience. And then one of the things I changed kind of on the fly was I could see that there were some gaps in understanding, so I added a daily knowledge check page. And I would just ask an essential question, and the students would answer, submit, and then on the back end I could analyze the data and even compare how my students were doing compared to students in the other classrooms. So that's a really valuable tool, and I'm going to use this again for any lesson that I can, because the data that I get from this is easy to use and really meaningful. And then finally on the teacher page, I have a wealth of information for anybody who would like to use this, and I've actually already had teachers from around the county contact me about how they can use my Webquest in their classroom. So we've got a video that I made with Movie Maker showing students evaluating peers via a gallery walk. And they love seeing themselves online, so that's a really fun little element that I used. And it was interesting to me, too, that the kids visit the teacher page. So the standards, kids demonstrating exemplary work, this technology standards, differentiated tools for data collection, and then how to implement the gallery walk experience. I've got a little love note that one of the other classes wrote. And then, of course, the references. So overall, it was a great experience. I can't wait to use this again next year and delegate some responsibilities to my colleagues as we develop other Webquests and technology-based resources in the future. So thanks so much for your time, and I really look forward to your feedback.